How about them tops, son?
All day, SEC boys. SEC, they supposed to be SEC. Crazy all day, baby.
You're listening to the Red Out Podcast.
Welcome into another Red Out Podcast. I'm Jake.
Hey, Devin in the house. We got Jared, surprise, back again.
Happy Wednesday.
That's right. And we got Ross, or Jared number 2, as Jake likes to call him.
Listen, guys.
He's still the real Ross. He's the real Ross.
He's the real Ross.
It's okay. I mixed up Matt with Devin last week. So.
That's fine.
It's all good. So, winners, losers. I mean, we haven't really started March Madness, but I have one loser that I got an ESPN notification about today.
Oh, okay.
Abilene Christian's coach has a hole in his suit pants that he's going to wear for the game. He has a hole in his butt of his pants.
Okay, but hold on. All right. So
I'd say that's a winner because he got. How did he get it, Jake?
Okay, first, yeah. Okay. How?
I love how that took you a second.
Yeah, I know, right? It's just like, whoa, wait.
Okay. I don't know anything about Abilene Christian. I don't know.
Who does?
I know they're going to
It's
lose.
about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Okay, I can do that. Okay. How much does this guy make a year?
Probably not enough. He's probably a volunteer
Probably
coach.
I would guess that they're a brand new Division I program. I think within the last 5 years, I would be shocked if it was over 150,000.
Okay,
maybe
so let's say
I
the
bet
guy
he doesn't make 50.
Oh yeah, he does. Let's say the guy makes $75,000 a year.
Okay.
Can't you go buy some new breeches? Ain't you got one runner on your whole team that can't get you some new pants?
Well, of course, my wife was on lunch at the time. Of course, Wednesday's my day off, guys. So I was sitting at home. I fixed her lunch when she got home.
No dead bodies on Wednesday.
Not for me. So I get the alert and I go, what the? I was like, apparently Abilene Christian's dude doesn't have pants. And she goes, ain't there nobody can go get him pants? And I was like, you would think. That would have been my thing. I wouldn't have told ESPN that I ain't got no pants.
Maybe it's one of those things like he's like, there's like it's one of these things like they're endearing, like they're in endearing little stories.
Oh yeah, they look for these
6 hours.
stories with the low majors all the time. Like, I mean, even like Georgia State a couple of years ago, the coach that was, he had to sit in the chair because he broke his leg. I mean, they always try to find these just so you can watch these beatdowns that are about to happen. So
I hope he wears like brightly colored underwear. And it's like on camera constantly.
Every time you mention Georgia State, that's what I think right there. But seriously, though, I mean, that was just one of those. I went, "What the flip is going on?" Of course,
so funny.
The thing with Kentucky and with whatever, but
Well, here's the thing. This coach earned them, and that's a great story. That probably brought X amount more attention to their school that probably nobody's heard of before. And good for them, good for him, man. Like,
hey, I'm good
enjoy your moment in the spotlight, and beat UK. That'd be a story.
The one thing that this is going to do is that it's going to put a new definition to the term "beat the pants off of somebody."
Yes.
So
that's a good point. That's a good point, Jared. So, do you have any?
I've got another.
I have a winner.
Okay, Ross, we'll go to you, and then we'll go to Jared. Okay.
My loser is ESPN. I guess 2 days ago, they accidentally leaked out the women's bracket on a random replay of the men's showing in the middle of the day. So they pretty much robbed all the women's teams of their moment on TV. Like, they still showed the thing later, but pretty much took all the air out of the room where people knew 75%. Like, oh, we know who's in, who's out, who snuck in, blah, 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 blah. It's like, that just sucks. I mean,
it does.
ESPN gets enough criticism as it is, and you're just going to pull that on once-in-a-lifetime moment. Just sucks.
It was like hours early, too. It wasn't like the other year when they released the bracket, when they screwed up the bracket release show for the men's tournament, and somebody released it 30 minutes before the show or 20 minutes before the show. This was way early in the day, right? Like,
it was 2:00 in the afternoon,
and they were gonna do it at
10:30 that night or something.
Well, I think that was the
NIT. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right.
But still, it was wow, good job, ESPN.
Yeah, that's the one I really cared about. So
the WNIT.
Yeah, which is sad, but yeah.
Better than men's.
Yeah, I know, right? Jared, what do you got, buddy?
I was just going to say for my winner, I would definitely have to go with Belmont because, I mean, they did so good this season. They earned the at-large bid. They came and they beat Temple in their first round game. I'm really happy for Rick Berg, great coach, had over 800 wins now for his career over like 33 years. Like Belmont was 0-7 in the tournament before now, and I'm hoping they still got a few more wins in them too. I think the Bruins can do it. We'll
I got them in an upset, so
I would love to see Belmont, get to the next round at least.
that's a team that beats us every year that I don't.
Yeah, hot take. Screw Belmont. I'm so jealous of their stability, their system. Like they're obviously in the lower conference slightly than us, even though they got 2 more bids. But like, wouldn't you just die to have like a solid coach that had a system that stayed at somewhere like WKU for 20? I mean, he's been there for like 40 years, but even like 20 years, where you could just know year in year out this is what to expect. So just a little bit of jealousy.
Basically, they're Ed Diddle.
Yeah, that's true. He's definitely he's a Diddle or a Rupp or whoever you want to go with.
But that's one of those things now where you will not get that in a modern coach.
Nope.
It is not a thing that exists really anymore if you're any good. Like, he's good, and he's just from the school.
I think he started off at the lower levels. Belmont was NAIA till like 20 years ago.
Right, exactly.
So he was already kind of in his mid to late 40s. I think Tennessee made a couple runs at him, and he decided, nope, I'd rather live in Nashville than Knoxville, so I can't blame him there either.
I don't blame him there at all.
No, I don't think anybody doubts that.
I don't want to go to the
Because who would want to listen to Rocky Top every week? Ugh.
That's Devin's least.
See that awful orange.
That awful orange and the song.
But
here's my disdain. Yeah, here's my disdain is that when Western played Tennessee buku years ago, they played that song every time at practice. Every time we went team, they played it for however long team was. So for like 45 minutes, we got Rocky Top blasting. You went to sleep humming Rocky Top, and then you just woke up screaming. It was awful.
That's probably why they had like 6 turnovers and 6 straight plays.
That's probably right.
Yeah.
What was it?
I was studying for the LSAT. I distinctly remember I was in Nashville at a coffee shop trying to get ready for a class, and I was like, turnover, comma. Oh, guys.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, we pretty much played them even or better before that.
Yeah, I know.
Like, we're moving the ball and everything else, and only a score down at the halftime. But that game, just like any other almost upsets, one that's like, man, if we could have just done this or that. Kind of like U of L this year.
Now, see, the year I'm talking about was the Lane Kiffin years, which makes me hate Lane Kiffin.
That was just straight sodomy. I mean, besides Bobby Rainey, I don't think anybody really had anything there.
They made a documentary about it. It's called Leaving Neverland.
I just can't get over hashtag straight sodomy. I can't. I'm done. Y'all might as well hang it up. I don't know what.
I think it was like a 70-7 final, so it was a bubble.
Oh man,
it was an awful game.
Okay.
It was very disappointing. Jared, did you do yours? You did Belmont. Okay, sorry. I've like Jake. I'm so thrown off with straight sodomy. So Ross, while we're trying to get back on task here, baseball, softball updates.
Okay, we got some good news and some okay news in that department. I think since we ignored the baseball, softball update last week when we were on like a 7-game losing streak, and we were just talking about the conference tournament. But we rebounded last weekend after losing 15-0 to UK and swept UAB to get back to 500. We were at 9-9. Then we lost yesterday to Austin P. So 3-0 in the conference. You can't ask for a better start in that regard, because if we can finish in the top 10 or the top 8 in the conference, this season is success, even if we're at 500. So, it sucks that we started 6-2 and now we're 9-10. But with expectations and how big of a dumpster fire the baseball program's been lately, I think we've got to be okay with where we're at this time.
Speaking of the conference play, Ross, here's a question for you. If the Toms don't make the conference tournament, is it time to find a new coach?
Yes.
Well, that was succinct. You care to expand on that?
I'm sorry. Conference USA actually is a baseball league. Like Southern Miss, Rice, the Florida schools, they have really good baseball programs year in and year out. But I mean, last year they were in position to finish in the top 8, and then they lost like their last 6. Like, you've got to get it done this year. So now this weekend we travel to FIU, who, like I said, is usually one of the better teams in the conference. Makes the tournament every couple years. So, I mean, if they can take 2 out of 3, they kind of show, that they're ready to fight for that tournament bid, which moves the program forward.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think, was it Sunday we talked about it, or last week maybe? Talking about how the Southern schools typically have...
Yeah, it was last week.
Yeah, typically
They
have
just
a
play outside
better...
more.
They do better in baseball season and baseball teams because it's the weather. I mean, it's kind of like... It does that with football, too. I mean,
See, I don't buy that because I live here in Louisville, and Louisville's baseball team went from having less tournament appearances than WKU 15 years ago to being a power. Obviously, Louisville's got more money around it.
I was about to say, I'll give you that,
if you recruit under recruited players like kids from Chicago, Indiana, stuff like that, you can get diamonds in the rough and compete. And I think Western needs to probably, if they do get rid of Pulowski, hire one of those assistants who has a experience recruiting up there and see if you tried the former SEC coach, you tried the two, I guess Myers was you tried to keep the continuity pick. Now do an outside pick that, replicate what U of L and UK did and see if you can just ride the Northern players to success.
I mean, I think like 10 years ago, we had buku of players going to the farm system, to the major league, whatever. And I don't know, kind of what happened there. I mean, that's just my...
They lost their coach to Old Dominion, and then it went down the dumpster.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, right. Sounds good.
Straight side of me.
So, good news, softball, right?
Yes. So softball is just rolling right now. After the win, they had a comeback win today against Eastern. I think it was 6-5, and then they swept the Florida FIU this weekend. So they're sitting pretty. I mean, they're at 19-5 right now. I think that probably is still off to their best start in school history. So sitting in the 70s in the RPI, which I think that's a big part of that has to do with the schedule. But they play Charlotte. They play Charlotte this weekend, and then they play at UK. I mean, if Kennedy Sullivan can throw her arm, which she's already had a no-hitter, a couple one-hitters. Mm-hmm. If she can shut down UK and U of L over the next 2 weeks, then they might be in position for an at-large. So
that'd be great.
We'll see. Awesome. I mean, softball is, like I've said before, the one sport that we might actually feel good with after the curse, the 100-year curse or whatever. So
100-year curse. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know which is worse, 100 miles of hate or 100-year curse. I think the 100-year curse.
I'm a full believer in the 100-year curse now. I mean, it's definitely a thing.
Can we sacrifice a virgin on each field, like football field, basketball court?
Good luck finding one on Western's campus.
That's true. That's true.
Zing! That's all I always say, man. I went back. I don't remember what year it was, but I went back for a Thursday night football game, like to open the season, and I've said this before, but I just forget how ratchet Western is. Like, every time I forget. Like, drunk girls with no shoes. Did I tell you the one where the girl tried to get in a truck with me?
No.
I was leaving at, I had to work the next day, so I went back, and I left, halfway through the third quarter, so I could get back to
at a decent time.
Yeah. And so, I was in, the Chestnut Street lot, and I was leaving, and this girl in a black dress walks up to me. I was like, okay, sorority, they're doing something. So she's running over. Okay, is she alive? So she looks just drunk. So okay, maybe she's fine. But I roll the window down. I was like, are you okay? And she's like, do you know where the Lenski house is? And I was like, yeah, honey, it's just literally on the other side over there. And she's like, can you take me over there? I'm supposed to meet shit. And I was like, no, this is a terrible idea. Thank God, her halfway.
Were you dating your now wife at the time?
Oh, I was engaged at the time.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And so
that was a totally terrible idea. So
yeah.
And
I think she didn't get in the car.
But luckily enough, her a little bit sober friend came over and was like, we're good. We're good. Come on, honey. I was like, thank you for getting your drunk friend. I was going to have to call the PD to go pick her up and just be bad. I was like, good Lord, this is how terrible things happen. Stop drinking so much, y'all.
Yes.
My only answer to that is sorry for partying.
Yep.
Sorry for partying.
Yep.
Fair enough.
So, good news, bad news.
Yeah.
So let's talk good news so we can drown our sorrows in
Yes.
bad news.
Yes.
Good news, the Lady Tops, the most ignored team on campus so far this year, besides softball, I guess.
Hey, man, golf makes a strong running for most ignored team.
That's true. Has made it to the WNIT.
Would you?
Yep.
Actually, a proper postseason tournament for the Tops.
Boop, boop. So, all right.
So, fun fact, I actually watched 2 Wet Lady Toppers games while in Frisco and left generally impressed. I think it was the first Lady Tops games I've been to since 2010. They dominated Old Dominion, and they gave Rice everything they could handle. And, I was generally proud of them. I think they returned almost everybody next year. And, I think the WNIT, this is a perfect stepping stone for them because, you return everybody, you get year 2 of the coach, you get to play at least one more game. I think, they can use this to get some momentum next year.
Well, and particularly in Colin's first season, this is like you said, this is a perfect opportunity to build something for next year, to get moving, to get in the right direction, and to kind of dispel some of the bad feelings through different parts of the season. Because this whole season hasn't been all sunshine and daisies like it usually is.
No. I mean, they've had streaks of bad luck, and
Tough schedule,
playing Rice. I mean, I don't
Rice
think
is good.
Rice
is
was
real
kind
good.
of the girls' Old Dominion.
That tall girl was like 6'7", Mulkey or whatever that Matt was talking about. She was an absolute beast. Like,
6'9".
I mean, she pretty, the Raneem, the big Egyptian, she shut her down. Like, she couldn't do anything against her. So, I mean, tip their hat to Rice. They're having the season of their life. We'll rebound next year, and let's hopefully make a little run and play 2 or 3 games in the WNIT. So
yeah, I mean, it'd be great if the girls. Now, my question is, guys, you have to pay what, $40,000 to get into the NIT if you get a bid?
No. It's so we can get into this debate. It's girls. It's paid for.
Oh, okay.
It's the CBI and CIT you have to pay to get in. And
okay.
When we get into the guys, we can kind of do a quick debate of whether we should or shouldn't. But yeah, that's another thing to remember about the WNIT is it's 64 teams. So if the NIT was 64, twice the size of the men. If it was 64, WKU would have been in the NIT as well. But we can talk about whether they should or shouldn't here in a second. So
yeah, we'll get to it.
Yeah, literally a second. So, Jared, what is your take on the women getting into the WNIT?
I mean, it's definitely good to be able to get some more experience, kind of see what the postseason is like. I mean, same issue with the guys that they had last year getting that good NIT run. I feel like that helped them at times, but I mean, it didn't end up getting the job done this year, but we'll get to that. But I mean, it's definitely good for them to still get some more playing time, go up to Miami of Ohio, I think it is, and take care of business and see how far they can go.
So I completely agree with what everybody's saying. Anytime you have a postseason minus certain instances, it's a good thing. I'd love to have seen the girls actually got to go to the big dance, but junior prom at WNIT, we'll take it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if they end up beating Miami, Ohio, they could play Morehead State in the next round.
Yeah, I couldn't find the actual.
I found the printable.
That's what I was trying to find, was the printable version, and I couldn't find it. So they could play Morehead?
Yeah,
they could beat Morehead
so
easily.
Morehead plays Ohio State, and they're kind of like linked.
So they're playing Ohio State. Let's be honest.
No. Yeah, okay.
I'm just saying, maybe. There's also, if you look at the matchup right below the Lady Tops, Middle Tennessee is playing IUPUI.
Ooey-pooey.
Yeah.
Actually, Morehead State is leading Ohio State 23-21 as we speak.
Oh, yeah, okay. Ross over here talking smack about Morehead.
That crow tastes kind of good.
Yeah. That's a school in Kentucky I don't hate.
Okay, my funniest story with Morehead is when I was younger, I went to a UK game, okay? UK was playing Morehead, and Moorhead students were in the parking lot cheering Moorhead.
Well, I mean, it's like,
I
let's
know.
go pee.
I know, yeah, but still, it's just like girls and guys and everybody. Of course, teenage me is sitting there giggling because they're going, Moorhead, Moorhead, and I was like, yeah, Moorhead.
Right, man, these people are thirsty.
I know, right?
You might as well
Kentucky
embrace
thirst
it.
is real.
What, Ross? I'm sorry.
I said you might as well embrace it.
That's
Exactly.
Right. That's right. That's why I giggle like the let's go pee. Like, they get it. It's funny.
So the girls have a potential to play Moorhead State or Ohio State, and then God knows where. I don't see a bracket.
Could be middle. Could be High Point.
Actually, a middle return could be a really good game.
Yeah, that would be they could have a matchup with middle in round 3
Okay.
if everybody wins the way they're supposed to.
So they play tomorrow night, and that is. Why did I just scroll away from that?
7 p.m. Eastern time.
7 p.m. Eastern.
At Miami, Ohio.
6 Central at Miami of Ohio. Blah blah blah. Does anybody know where you can watch that game? If you can.
I have no idea.
Okay, just throwing it out
Just
there. So the fans
follow
can
and
hear.
tune in, and I'm sure they'll have it on the radio or something.
Yes.
And if anybody who's listening does know, like, a schedule of, like, where because it probably won't be, you probably won't get this in time to, like, know this, to, like, tell everybody where the game is, but if we win, if you can tell us where the next one is,
Yeah.
if there's, like, TV right, if, like, where the TV rights are going to be and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that'd be
If
great.
there are some. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that you probably could listen with the IMG Sports Network or
Hilltop
whatever.
Sports Network might
Yeah,
have it.
yeah. I'm sure they'll be able to be there to just holler at you. Second round starts March 23rd to the 26th. Quarterfinals is about 7 days later. The semifinals is in April, and then the finals is April 6th.
Yep.
So.
And that one is on CBS Sports Network.
Oh, it is?
So some of these might be televised on CBS Sports Network.
So I'm so depressed. I guess I'm just going to have to go buy CBS Sports
We really
Network.
are going to have to.
We're just going to have to because
Just let me give you guys my login. Don't waste your money.
Attaboy.
yes.
But
Yes,
here's the deal.
thanks,
Can we
Ross.
all use it at the same time?
Yeah,
That's the kicker.
that's right. I'll be calling Jake. Jake, get off. I need to see what's going on.
Yes. We'll just all periscope it.
That's what it is, yeah.
Ross, quit sneezing. You're shaky, bro.
So,
That's the saddest time.
sad news. The men did not make the dance, which we expected, losing to ODU for the third time this year. Is it third or fourth time?
Third time. And by
Third.
the way, can we just go ahead and dispel that it's hard to beat a team 3 times? Because I was listening to the radio the other day. Patently false. 72% of the time, the team beats them the third time. Because guess what? If you beat them twice, you're just a lot better than that team.
I mean, we beat Southern Miss 3 times because we matched up well against them.
Right. If you
ODU
beat a
matched
team
up well
twice,
against us.
You typically beat them the third time. So if I see anybody on Twitter or Facebook saying that, I'm just going to be like, citation. Boom, roasted.
Citation needed.
Citation. So, I mean, we had boots on the ground. So,
We did.
Ross, what was your impression? I know you wrote an article on Towrac, so for the full experience, you can check Towrac.
Yeah,
Ross-
I'll go with the basketball, and then after we get through our discussion, I can kind of get my 2 cents on actually going or not going. But
Okay,
I
go
would
ahead.
say I had a great time prior to even with 5 minutes left into the championship game. Jared Savage hits that 3. We're tied at like 44 or something. We're where we want to be. Prior to that, we played our most complete game of the season against North Texas.
Yep.
Looked great. The second game, we looked like crap in the first half against Southern Miss and still blew them out by like 12 points. We were dispelling all the stuff we were talking about before. We were growing as a team. We were looking good. Then we ran into, honestly, what I said at the end of this, we ran into a better team. Like the ugly things like, terrible 3-point shooting, turnover, stuff like that reared their ugly head against a team that's experienced and was a little bit more poised. Like, we didn't have the Stith, the Caver, the Green to really match them. Like, if our defense played well enough. If you're going to tell me we're going to lose because the other team's shooting jump shots, I'd be like, well, I mean, it's just not our day. And as frustrating as Western's play was on the offensive end, after it gave me a little bit of time to think, I'm not as mad as I know some other people are. So.
I don't know. I'm not mad at the game. That's the thing. It's like I was, after it happened to us, like after we were violated,
basically,
you're mad. You're disappointed because the dream of the season, the promise of the season, the redemption arc is over. For me, and I said all along that it was, the dance or bust. Like an NIT run is great. That's fine. Last year it was exactly what I thought we needed, and it was really good for the program. This year I was like, look, I don't care. I'm sorry. Like I'll be happy. It'll be great. But like it's tournament or bust. And when that was taken away, like I was, and it wasn't even like anger really. It was again like depression. It was just like sad,
frustration.
Yeah,
I was definitely more mad about how much we underachieved this year than that one game.
Right, and that's kind of what I think we'll move to, because I think we can all agree. Okay, we're sad we didn't make the dance, and we're sad that we lost that game. But when taken into account I think the whole body of work for the season is what I am the most sad about, and not even just sad, because I get a little angrier about like the actual arc of this season, because like I like to say pee down their leg.
Yep.
Like Ross's unmitigated disaster. It's not an unmitigated disaster, but it's whatever that next step closer to good is. Like it was a bad season.
It wasn't like Hurricane Katrina. And
it's like tropical depression Jonas. It's like it's not gonna kill anybody.
No,
but it's definitely gonna like cause some damage, and there's gonna be a couple $1 million to spend,
and some people gonna be mad about something.
Exactly. That was like that's just deep down. Like this was and we can each kind of take turns like why this is such a depressing, disappointing season. But for me, it was last year is promise. Last year is a hodgepodge team of young guys and experienced role players. Some grad transfer magic thrown in. Okay, we pieced together this season that, again, we didn't really lose anybody we weren't supposed to lose to, but we also didn't beat anybody we really weren't supposed to beat.
This season or last season?
Last season.
Well, we beat Purdue. And,
we had one.
Okay.
But
we had some wins.
But for the most part, it wasn't seen as the promise. Like after the Purdue win, there was definite at-large bid talk, and then once we got into the season, probably like, okay, we kind of know this is a good team who can go win the conference tournament, and dang it, we almost did.
Yeah.
Outside of those cursed rims in Frisco, which Jared can talk about.
Yes.
But then, so that NIT run, that was great. We got, like, in the NIT, we get some good wins. You get the USC, you get the Oklahoma State, where Tay's popping his shirt with the Western. I still have that GIF. Like, it was awesome. Okay, this is the build. And then over the summer, I still remember where I was. I was in a hotel room getting ready to go to a continuing legal education thing in Lexington, of all places. And my buddy calls me. He's like, hey, Bassey committed. And I was like, you're lying. Bassey did not commit. Because up until that point, I was like, no, this is just like the Zion thing. This is Mitrov. Like, it's not happening.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm freaking out. Like, sorry, about to go to dinner. Like, that's great. So this season, this thing begins to piece together before the season starts. And you're like, oh, this is legit special. This is going to be it. This is the springboard from which we return to prominence. And it's just not. And you get a little bit ahead. You get some amazing wins against like a Wisconsin. Even a West Virginia looked really good back then. Not so great now, but looked really good back then. And then you just drop the ball time and time again. And I don't want to play blame on like any individual players necessarily. Because people, like there were guys that didn't perform right. But at the end of the day, like I just don't understand how as an experienced coach, you can't get guys to follow a game plan. Because I know if the game plan for some of this stuff was a jack up crappy threes and not pass to Charles Bassey, then that's poor coaching. And I have more respect for Coach Stansberry than that. I honestly believe that his biggest failing this season is he could not get his team to follow a game plan, which includes mostly getting Charles Bassey more than 8 shots a game.
Yeah.
And absolutely. that was that to me is the takeaway from this season is that Rick Stansberry has to figure out a way to get his team to do what he says. You are not Steph Curry, Savage. You just aren't. So quit. Pass the dang ball. Tay, I don't know.
Quit asking for foul calls that aren't coming.
Yeah, Tay, look, for real, dude, like, you had some of the most beautiful up and under shots especially that NIT run. Guys, do you remember how many like English off the glass shots he had, like up and under coverage? It was amazing. And this season it was like run straight at a dude, get mad about a foul, jack a three. No, don't do that. That's not what you're good at. Like, play to your strengths, bro. Can't really say that much about Josh Anderson. He stepped up like he was supposed to, for the most part. Like,
yeah.
Sorry about. But for me, the number one thing is Stans could not get his boys to pay attention and follow a game plan, and that is one of your jobs as the coach. Like, yes, get talent, but make sure that talent does what you tell it to on the floor.
Yeah.
And he couldn't do it. And for me, that was like that's the angriest part of this whole season for me. Like, if you guys could see him, like, making, like, choke hands, like, get yourself together. And if he can't do that next year, again, massive disappointment.
Hot seat time. Yes or no?
No, not quite.
Okay. Ross, you think it's hot seat time?
No, and we can get into it a little bit more when we get to the questions.
When we get in the mailbag, Matt has a good question.
Yes.
On that. We'll deal with that.
Jared, hot seat time.
I mean, it's definitely warming up a little bit just for the fact that, I mean, he had someone that's arguably like a first-round draft pick, even though he's kind of more towards the late/second round now. But, I mean, it's just disappointing. I think our expectations may have been a little high. I mean, one thing that I learned for sure this season is just how important Justin Johnson was last season.
Amen.
I mean, he was just such a workhorse. He was super underappreciated, even though, I mean, he was still one of the senior leaders and everything. I mean, he was what made that team last year. And while we have some really good talented young players, I mean, there's a lot of the things we saw this season just comes with immaturity. And, I mean, there's no real way to kind of get around that.
I don't know. I will push back on that expectations like being overhyped, because when you have arguably the like most talented player you've had since like modern recruiting, like Haskins, like all of them aside, like you have that talent, you have a top 50 player or a top 60 player in Anderson, you have Banton who's supposed to be the next coming of point guard Christ. You have all of these people who are athletically and like physical talent level a leg up on almost everybody in the conference aside from a couple of dudes. I mean, I honestly think that there was no reason why. Now, maybe, like, at large at the beginning of the season might have been a little bit, but after the Wisconsin win, after the St. Mary's win, this, like, string you're putting together, I think that was, like, the exact amount of hype, and I think the team just flat out failed.
Yeah.
Well, that's the disappointing thing. It's not like we didn't have good wins. It's not like we didn't show our potential sometimes. It's just that when it mattered the most, like, you know, that last game in Frisco, we just totally got out-poised, out-executed, whatever you want to talk about.
I mean, I agree with Jared that there's a lot of that to youth. Like, I absolutely, that is youth, but at the same time, like, they wasn't all youth.
In my opinion, the Old Dominion game was 100% coaching because, I mean, Jeff Jones knows how to beat Western, and that's to make them shoot threes, and Western shot 22% from deep that game.
Yeah,
so,
I
mean,
agree
that's how you do it. They couldn't get the ball inside. So there was nothing they could do about it.
And we saw all season
one underrated aspect was the missed free throws. I mean, we did what we always do. We drew fouls, but I mean, how many times did we miss the front end of a one-on-one either to, you know, I think there was one we missed to give us a 4-point lead, like with 8 minutes left, and then there was one when we tied the game. Bassey got one and then missed it, and then they go down the court and shoot a three. There was, you know, every time we had a chance to take the momentum, especially at the free throw line, we just couldn't execute in that game.
You know, so we were talking about sacrificing. Old Dominion must have some versions of sacrifice, at least for the football program, or the basketball program, because missed free throws is absolutely like their bread and butter.
Yep.
Like, that's the whole thing.
I mean, that's how they won all 3 games.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Zach Bryant for UAB had him dead to rights, and then I guess Louisiana Tech had him dead to rights, and they just, you know, I kind of just wish one of those would have done the favor for us so we didn't have to face them. But
yeah, it's the Rams, I'm telling you.
I guess, man. There's something, they got some juju going about missed free throws, dude.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they sacrificed a virgin, but, you know, Lord help them if they actually played a good team like Murray State.
If you weren't twice my size, I'd headbutt you.
Oh, no. I was just completely just going for Jared there just to see if he would react.
Devin knows how to trigger me really well.
Oh, I've almost come to an arc.
I went off to work at work today. Somebody said something about Murray State. I was like, I hope they get blasted on Marquette by 40. Like, I just can't wait. Like,
the worst part is that Murray State's on spring break right now, so all my friends that go to Murray State and my church have been hounding me nonstop ever since they've gotten back, so that's always fun.
Oh, man, Like, I don't have that sexy, like, Murray steak. Is Ross killing, like, a chicken or something? Are you splitting wood, Ross? What's going on?
I'm trying to do stuff, multitasking. I'm cutting up a thing of cantaloupe from earlier. Sorry.
Okay, just
with a hacksaw. I mean, I don't know what's going on over here. He's like,
just a standard knife.
Oh, okay.
Little do you know, Ross grows cantaloupes that are the size of like trucks. And
Yeah,
he's cutting them up. With
and they're hard as coconut.
Yeah,
So, yeah, completely. That's what's taking so long to get it split.
Dude,
so I don't know. Do we need to go to Ross and let him talk about his experience in Frisco? Or have you
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Ross.
So I know.
Let's hear the good and the bad.
I know you two specifically were dogging Frisco. Like, why are we doing this? And to me, half the reason I went down there, one was obviously to see if we could make the tournament for the first time, but
right.
to kind of experience this event. And, like I've said in the past, and I'll play devil's advocate on this, I mean, Conference USA is a broke conference. We're spread out from El Paso to Norfolk, so there's not really a perfect place to do it. And kind of after this tournament, I'm okay with Frisco being part of the rotation. It's just we've got to hope that they bring it back east sometime relatively soon. So, the area was super nice. I've never seen any more like this is just Dallas in general, but like even Frisco, like I saw so many fancy sports cars, like more than I've ever seen in my life. Everything from like an Aston Martin to a Ferrari to just like when a Mercedes or BMW looks like a normal car, it's kind of blows your mind.
I agree, yeah.
Around the arena, there were some nice bars. I mean, it was all clean, so that was great. Where we stayed about 2 miles away, like was like a really high end area with they had this really cool food court thing. It was like a triple deck and had like every kind of like it was like food trucks all in one like cafeteria, not even like one building with 3 layers and bars and everything else like that. It was really cool. Like you could get anything from Mexican to like they had bratwurst, Philly cheesesteaks, shawarma, like some weird stuff that I've never even heard of. But that was cool. And then just being able to drive down to like Dallas and go see things. Like I went to like the George Bush Library,
which I would love to go to. Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. Like just they had like the bullhorn from like like when he went in front of the firefighters on 9/11. They had just all kinds of cool memorabilia there. We went to the aquarium. My daughter loved it. Went to the science center. My daughter loved it. So like if you want to make a vacation out of the trip and watch Western basketball, I think there's a huge opportunity down there. Which having gone to Hot Springs and Birmingham, it's not this. It's those places are not the same. So. On that end, I thought it was great. Any comments or questions or anything thus far?
Well, I think that one point you made is kind of an important one, is that if you want to make a vacation out of it, that the area that you're around really matters. Because, I mean, if you're going to take, for me to do that, I'm going to take vacation. You're going to fly out there. You're going to stay there for a few days.
Or if you're Matt, you drove,
Good Lord. We'll get into
and
that.
I've ridden with Matt all the way to Miami, Florida before, so Frisco's nothing.
I'm just.
He's a madman. I mean, I've seen him in
infant?
person, but like even at the games, man, that guy's got more energy than anybody I know.
Oh yeah, Matt has always been high energy. He's always been high strung as far as I can remember with sporting events like that.
Just like wow, I love that he's.
That's something that we need to talk about at some point next time he's on. Is our trip to Miami when we went to the Miami Beach Bowl. I didn't even know him that well before. Like he basically saw how desperate I was trying to be like, man, I want to go to Miami so bad. He messaged me like, hey, I guess you can ride with me and my wife. We don't mind. So I'm just like, heck yeah.
That's my favorite.
Awesome.
It's because you said you rode to Miami with him. I'm thinking just you and him in the truck.
That would.
But I just little Jared. Here's Mom, Dad. There's little Jared in the back. Just give me some Cheerios.
Yeah, like we had a mutual friend that we both knew really well, and I sort of knew him like going to the student section to all the games and stuff. So I sort of knew who he was, obviously, and like through all the posting and stuff. Like Matt McKay, he's cool. He's like this cheerleader guy, almost kind of always leading all the chants. It's like, sure, but we talked about Western sports for like 10 of the 18 hours we were on the road.
Speaking of Matt,
I figured since he's a minister, you'd gotten like deep with him. Like talk about the meaning
yeah,
of
it's pretty
life
nice.
and everything else.
Oh yeah, all sorts of existential stuff too. We had some of that.
Oh yeah, see, I gotta stay away from that. I don't need to have an existential crisis in a car where I can't get out, man.
Yeah, I know, right?
He's driving 85 down the road. Just we're getting deep.
That would almost cause an existential crisis, I think. You know, yeah.
How did he? Okay, so Ross, would you ever drive? How far was it? 11 hours.
I mean, I drive
Frisco?
10 hours to Florida.
To
from
Frisco,
where my
sorry.
wife's from.
To Frisco with an infant.
Which I assume that he took the child with him.
I don't have any idea how he did it with an infant.
That's
we
so
took
impressive.
We took my daughter to Florida once when she was little, and that's right when she was starting to stand up. And
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine that. That would be a living hell, man. Basically, when you'll learn here soon, Jake. When they're super duper young, they'll sleep all day. You can plan their stuff around it. But when they're trapped in that car seat, and they will just scream, and there's nothing you can do about it because it's safety. So
Yeah, I'm just like, man, I don't know.
He was sick too.
Oh yeah, and had a cold or something.
Yeah, Black Plague or whatever it is.
And
yeah,
his poor wife trapped in the car with Littleton, and Matt just just coughing. Bless her heart.
It's just a giant car of Petri dish right there, and it just sounds awful.
Just a Matt coughing and fart cloud, just right in the car.
It's 723 miles from Bowling Green to Frisco.
11 hours and 2 minutes. Devin just looked it up.
Yes, so I mean,
11 hours and 2
and
minutes.
I bet you it's longer than that with a wife, a kid, and I think his parents were there with him too. So I guarantee that probably took 14 hours.
And there's 4 construction different sites going through there.
Yeah, and that's just like Google Maps overview. It probably is worse when you're driving. Yeah.
Which, by the way, I don't do traffic. I would have to fly. That's all there is to it.
Well, here's the thing. Here's another thing. Back to the thing.
Yeah, let's go to the
now. I think that Frisco, Dallas is not as hard to get to as people complain for it to be.
Okay.
Southwest just added flights out of here in Louisville. There's a lot of direct flights out of Nashville for the more Bowling Green folks. So those are cheap flights. DFW, there's direct flights, which is the other airport. If you guys didn't know, that flies American. There's direct flights. So, I mean, if you really wanted to plan in advance, buy the tickets right when they came out, you can get round-trip tickets for, probably less than $200 if you plan correctly. So, I think the key with this trip would all be around planning as opposed to just spur of the moment.
So, Ross, did you buy a George Bush painting while you were down there, or
do they have prints of his paintings at the museum? That's all I want to know about.
Yeah, I would totally buy one. I'm not even kidding.
I didn't. No, we kind of had to hurry because I think we went on Friday and we're like, oh man, 3:00. My wife was supposed to go with me and my daughter, and they ended up taking a nap. My wife's 6 months pregnant now. They took a nap, and me and my buddy who was with me, Logan, which we'll get into a funny story here in a second. But
which he sounds just like Jesse Ventura, but yes.
Well, Logan is, like I said, he's a peacock. He's a character, man. But so we ended up going to the game, and we just didn't have enough time. But they had a lot of cool stuff there. They had something about, they had a presidential retreat exhibit, kind of talking about Camp David, the Crawford Ranch, all LBJ, it doesn't matter even if you like W or not. It was just really cool. That's the first time I've ever been to one of those. So
there is a documentary series on Netflix. Goes over each decade, and my wife and I are currently watching the 2000s. And
yeah, that's great.
I completely agree with them on the fact that George W. Bush is a really good person, and I think he did what he did. Not whether you believe in his political aspects or not, I think he did what he did because he thought it was the right thing to do with the information that he was provided with.
Well, that's the thing. There's some stuff in there. Even I lean more to the right, but you can tell they put their own spin on their accomplishments there. So I'm sure every presidential. I could sure even some failed presidents that people didn't like or whatever are going to put their spin on what they did, and it was really cool. You could definitely see the before his accomplishments, and then 9/11 happening. There wasn't anything really on the financial crisis. It was just it was just kind of cool to see how they portrayed their presidency.
If I had my own library, it would be nothing but sunshine and daisies about how great I am. Not gonna lie.
statue of you when you come in, and then there's paintings of you in various
It's like
parts
a
of your
moving
life. And,
statue of me just saying, pee down your leg.
Yeah, whatever, Joffrey.
So yeah, I mean, I don't want to bog ourselves too down in this. When it comes to the tournament itself, I would say that it wasn't awful, but like could have used a lot of work. Like, I mean, if you read my article, like I have some pictures on there. It's, you know, the temporary seating wasn't really great, but it wasn't terrible. I mean, it was all chairbacks, stuff like that. But the things that really annoyed me were like the scoreboard level, like being blocked by a basket, no matter which side.
Yeah, dude, that looked terrible.
Yeah, it did.
The fact that they closed down the concession stand closest, because we always sit on the visitor side because we got superstitious, but closed that down on the last day. So like I was, you know, had to be sober for the last game, which isn't a big deal, but like, you know, I was thirsty at the end of the game. Just like, you know, the line was too long and whatever. And then, you know, just little things like, you know, basically the community didn't really embrace the event. Besides, if you were literally right in front of the place, you wouldn't know the thing was going on. And, you know, like I said in the article, you know, North Texas doesn't embrace the event. They only had us beat 60-40 in fans on that Thursday night game. And it's just like,
which is insane, by the way.
Why, you know, if UAB, Western, even Middle, even though I said they had no fans, but even Middle had, you know, if it was within driving distance, they would have way more fans than that.
Like, could you just imagine?
I mean, 25
Memphis
miles.
or Nashville, like.
Well, I was thinking Louisville or Nashville and Western playing at either venue.
Like, could you imagine how many WKU fans would be there if it was
Oh my gosh,
Nashville?
yes. Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things that it's like Western would have so many more fans if we were closer.
I'm not gonna lie. If I had to just like, hey, how should we decide where this is gonna be?
Yeah.
If you want to pick 5 or 6, you know, regionally speaking, different cities for venues, and
Pretty sure that was a flush, but yeah,
it's fine.
I mean, like Old Dominion had literally like 24 people there because it was so far away.
But see, that's the thing. If you would just pick a couple of sites, right, have them rotationally, but they could be smaller venues so that you don't have to necessarily like plan much. I don't know. It should be. I would even be fine with campus. Like,
yeah,
like,
I wouldn't care.
I mean,
like
if you want to go through the events, like, and the fact that it wasn't basketball centric, there was no TVs in the concourses. Like, they didn't have the radio on in the bathroom, so like, if you had to pee, like, I pretty much just went at halftime.
Yeah,
like
everybody else.
It's just like, well, yeah, but like, just little stuff like that where it's like, you know, get your stuff together, make a better experience for these people that, you know, come a long way. And then, you know, I'll tell you my one funny story with the Marshall fan, which, you know, I thought was freaking hilarious.
Which, by the way, I think it's great that Ross picks out the one event with a Marshall fan. And that's the only thing he took away.
I'll give Marshall credit. They had about as many fans as us, maybe slightly less, but their fans care, which has always been my argument. So,
well, it's because they are Marshall, so yeah.
It's because they're West Virginia. They don't have anything else to do, but okay.
Exactly. They don't have jobs anymore because the coal mine's all closed.
Right.
So,
I mean, anybody that supports a mid-major school is okay in my book when it comes to that kind of stuff, because we all know how hard it is. Like I said, it's easy to go to the SEC tournament. It's easy to go to the ACC or go follow a big school. To do something like this, it takes dedication. People kind of look at you like, why are you wasting your time with this? Like, to me, like, that's kind of what I like about going to, you know, follow Western around as opposed to, like, you know, following UK or somebody else around, because the payout might not always be there, but you're going to have a unique experience that not everybody else is going to do.
That's respectable.
So, Ross, you didn't have a big issue with the curtain, is what I got from the article.
It really wasn't. I mean, it's funny to make fun of, but, like, it's not that big of a deal. It doesn't look tacky. The only thing that's annoying is if the other game's going on at the same time, you're going to hear it a little bit. But other than that, it's not a big deal. So
yeah, I mean, I think that was always Jake and I's biggest complaint with the curtain, is that it just seemed really ghetto.
It's purely appearance for me.
Yeah.
It's purely like prestige. My number one complaint with Conference USA is they don't have their stuff together. That's my number one thing. It seems like they put things together last minute, or like my number one thing that I want to know now, and I don't know how we'd go about getting the information. I want to know
Who else bid?
Well, not necessarily. I want to know, like, what's the money involved in this Frisco deal? Like, is the conference, like, what benefits? Like, what's the reason that it's in Frisco, aside from having, like, a lot to do in Dallas and it being, like, a really, like,
Well, I think it's Conference USA is based out of Dallas. It's easy to fly to, and they don't have to. They can make their staff stay at home, so that drives down some costs. And the fact is, they want a facility they can hold the men's and women's at the same time, which it's a noble idea, but at the end of the day, that doesn't really move the needle with me. But I think that's part of it, and I think the reason they renewed 2 years is because they didn't want to go through the process of having to set this whole thing up again. So I think that was the laziest thing they've done.
My thing is, I'm kind of like Jake. I wish they would, go from, Denton to, Norfolk?
Yeah.
Or whoever's the farthest east. Go from those two schools, find out what is the middle school. What would be the middlest thing in between? If it's Nashville or Knoxville or whoever, I don't care. But just kind of pick out 4 or 5 different venues along that, and then the next few years just kind of go down the line and just travel between the 4 or whatever.
Like rotate across, starting in the east, work your way west, and back and forth.
Or vice versa, whichever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, because I think that would be best. We'll see what they do. We all know that a lot of the schools in Conference USA don't have necessarily the most money, so you're looking either for cheap venues or venues that provide like a little kickback to you or whatever that is. Me being an econ nerd, like I always want to know like what's the cash situation, like what are the schools making, like what is the benefit, what is the detraction from this, why would we not be in a place where you might get more turnstiles, more tickets sold, like what is that? Because we know at the end of the day, like the tickets aren't what's like making really any money, right? They're barely keeping the lights on because nobody's going to show up.
I mean, they let me in for free and saved a bunch of money. The one thing I would ask: would you guys ever kick an opposing fan's seat because they were cheering against your team?
How many beers have I had?
Hey, I've had someone in Diddle Arena kick my seat because I was cheering for Western. It was some old person, and he said I was blocking his views. So, yeah, that definitely happens, even if it's in your own stadium.
Okay. But this was the tamest thing ever. We literally just sat down. The Marshall Southern Miss game was a good game, and rightfully so. I'd rather play Southern Miss because they were a better matchup for us. So they scored a basket, hit a three. I was like, yes, good job. And then the Marshall fan behind me just kicks my seat. I look over to Logan, and I'm like, did that just really happen? So I sent you guys all a message on the group chat. I was like, now it's time to get obnoxious. So he was just so, I guess, just had his panties in a wad. And so I cheered, and he's like, can't you guys just sit somewhere else? Sit in the Southern Miss section. I was like, it's a free country. I mean, and there really wasn't a Southern Miss section because
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
That's right.
Yeah, I thought this was America.
Yeah, I said this is a free country. This is America. And he just bellyached some more and finally just got up after Southern Miss scored another basket.
My thing is how drunk was the Marshall fan? Because in my experience, Marshall fans are always drunk and they're always trying to start something. So
I mean, he was in his 40s. He wasn't too drunk.
That's one of the things, like, my brain goes from 0 to I'm going to insult you to the very core of your being so that you go home and cry and, like, take a really hot shower, like that. So, like, my first thing is, like, you look over at your buddy and go, did that really just happen? Does it again. All right, listen here, you, and then just go on a tirade.
Well, he didn't kick me again, but yeah.
Like that's the first thing I would do is like, especially now that I like know a lot about hunting and how terrible it is, I just start like railing like, Jamie Oliver chicken nugget eating.
That's the greatest thing ever, though. That is the greatest.
I couldn't. That's going to get me hit or shot one day, but I just can't deal with it.
The Jamie Oliver chicken nugget thing is the greatest thing ever. So where do we go from here? Obviously, we ain't going to the NIT. We're not going to be like Marshall and pay to go to the CBI so that one of our players can get the school record for scoring.
Since we're we've rambled a little bit. Yeah, I think we 4 of us are kind of in unison. That wasn't really worth doing.
I don't think so either. I think financially it wasn't worth it. I don't think we would have went that far.
Like a fourth-rate tournament is just a terrible decision, anyways. Because one, I mean, the TV is going to be just as bad as what we deal with in the conference, anyways. Two, you're playing against like these kind of lower mid-major teams. And
they had teams with losing records in this,
lose.
like 11-20. It was like the team that like UAB's playing or like Marshall was playing. It's like these tournaments have no standards. It's like it's not a reward to a good season if you let anybody in these tournaments because they'll pay $40,000. It just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, if you got the cash and you're a team that needs more game time, I can maybe see it.
You know what I mean?
But if you ain't got if you're not just flush with like some of these Power 5, like didn't Pittsburgh or TCU go to one of these the other year? I can't remember.
West Virginia went this year, believe it or not.
I did hear that because that's hilarious. But yeah, if you want more reps for your guys, and you got the cash to blow, fine. But don't treat it like it's a real tournament. Don't treat it like don't pump it up. Be like, oh, fans, go. No, look, we're just getting game reps because they're better than practice. For our guys. And we're paying $40K to do it.
Yeah.
Do you know who won the CBI last year?
No idea.
Texas, wasn't it?
Yeah. So how much did that
North Texas. Way to go, Jared, with that pool.
I guess.
Yes. It's probably one of those long road trips you took with Matt that got you that. So
that's probably what it is.
That's what it is. It just rubbed off on you. So
speaking of Jared,
Jared's got an article. Went up 3 days ago on the towel rack. Where do the tops go from here? Is basically what it's called. So Jared, I'm gonna let you talk. Kind of talk about your article. Let's hit the high points and see what you think.
Well, sort of what I was talking about. I mean, I know I could easily nitpick every single issue that went wrong for the tops this year, which I didn't really want to do. I kind of wanted to see like what some of the main factors that could happen this offseason or things that would need to happen to help the team for next season that would really need to happen. Of course, the biggest one I talked about was Charles Bassey's decision, whether or not he stays or not. Devin, I know your bold prediction is that he'll stay again, which we'll see. Like, I've heard sources, this is nothing official, this is just rumors, that he's probably going to wait until, like, after March Madness to make a decision and see where the latest mock drafts are. I mean, that's just speculation. I don't know that for sure.
I would crap my pants if he stayed. Like, actually, like, crap my pants.
Me too, actually.
If he stayed for another year, that's going to be absolutely huge, so... That would be great. Another thing I talked about was just the terrible three-point shooting, that we need another three-point shooter on this team, which, of course, I had an article up today even talking about that Sean McNeil, junior college guy over in he's in Dayton, Ohio now. Yeah, Sinclair. Like, he's averaging almost 30 points a game, shooting 43% from deep. If we could get somebody like that on the team, a little more experience, have a good shooter that can help the team a lot, or just anyone, that in the point guard. Of course, another thing I sort of talked about was like the assistant coaching thing, like hence the article and everything, if he stays, if he leaves or whatever. And just kind of stuff like that, talking about the off-the-court issues too, that I really don't want to see any of that because, I mean, that's another thing we kind of complained about, like right at the beginning of this year with like Tay and Josh and Schumberg, and who was still on the team, all of them getting in trouble right as soon as the season starts. It just kind of takes a lot of the air out of the excitement. Seeing that your players are kind of doing that stuff out on the side and getting in trouble. Mind's not in the right place. But, I mean, it's college. I mean, we all understand that. But those are some of the main things that I took away. It'll be interesting to see if anyone transfers this summer. But, I mean, I'm hoping that Stansberry is able to keep his team, maybe get another good shooter. They definitely need it. So we'll see where that goes.
I know. My bold prediction is Bassey's going to stay, and that's fine if the kid does. I'm not going to hold it against him if he does. If he does go, I'll probably cheer for his team. I'll say that. I mean, minus the Pacers. If he goes,
I knew you were going to say that.
Devin's favorite thing is to trigger Jared.
Yes. Since Jared's back, I just like triggering him.
That's right, man.
Ross is not so easy to trigger, but I will eventually. But I agree completely. The off-court issues were really frustrating this year. You would almost have, Josh Anderson having good games, and then all of a sudden you'd go, well, what do you flip and do? They just got caught with dope again. But
Kentucky Street Apartments, man, I'm telling you.
That's where it's happening, man.
I know. I think I'm just going to buy a loft over there and just start selling it out.
Dude. Charge a little extra on that rent.
So, yeah, exactly. So does... I've heard some people say, and I think we talked about it off... actually, diving into the mailbag, do we think that... having like a grad transfer or somebody would have helped be the leadership on the court this year that they needed.
I'll take this.
Okay, Ross, go ahead. You take it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors. I think, the roster turnover. We had a grad transfer this year. It was Deshaun Murray, and he let us down. That was who Stansbury was depending on to be our leader, our bulldog. Somebody who's going to get guys to put them on their back or chew them out or whatever it takes to be successful. And he left after 8 games. I mean,
yeah, it wasn't much.
Struck out on that. And then you see somebody like Trevelyan Queen go off for New Mexico State in their tournament, playing in the NCAA tournament, 3-point shooter. That's another person off the roster.
And they have 30 wins this year, too.
Yeah, dude, tell me about it. There was videos of him being excited and crying after the win. I was like, good for you, but I wish you were here.
Yeah.
You have those two players playing as part of a team, then you could have sat people like Jared Savage if they weren't having a game. You could have, you could have been way more flexible with your lineup. You could have, I think that at the end of the season, he had his 6 or 7 guys that he trusted, and then everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's one of those things that he had people he had faith in, and then there was others that he did not, and they just came out a lot quicker than some of these other guys.
It's true.
No matter how many people love Jake Omar, I don't know if he was one of those.
I was sad that his streak got broken against ODU because he did hit a 3. And I just hit Logan on the side. It's like, okay, we're winning this game because he hit that 3. And then lo and behold, it was the first time all year streaks are meant to be broken, I guess.
Yes, it is sad.
I like Jake. We just need somebody a little more athletic that can shoot the 3. That's all.
Is it because you share a name with him, or?
I got a soft spot for small white guys that can shoot 3s. What can I say?
He's a firecracker, I tell you.
Yeah, right.
He's got a lot of good knowledge of the game, and
that's why I keep scrappy, real scrappy.
He's got a high basketball IQ.
That's right, exactly. So, continue diving into the mailbag here. One of our contributors, friends, sometimes gives us a ride. Matt asks, how would each of you grade the job Rick Stansbury has done in his first 3 years?
Jared, you want to start us off?
Yep.
Yeah. So, just taking everything into context, it's definitely been a little bit of a ride. I remember his first year here, he had a sub 500 record, which of course he had to inherit so much of Harper's players that didn't really, Harper wasn't the best recruiter, so, that's kind of what he was dealt with. And then, of course, last year and everything, getting that good run in the NIT, having that senior leadership, getting those grad transfers in, as well as his recruiting too. He struck out with Mitchell Robinson. We may never fully know all the details of why he decided to do what he did. Seeing him in the NBA now, it makes me kind of glad that he never actually showed up, although, I'm sure he would have been good, but yeah, it's whatever. So, his recruiting aspect has been phenomenal, but, as far as, actually fulfilling some of the stuff that he said, getting us back to the tournament, he hasn't gotten to yet. But the main thing that he has said that I will fully give him credit for is that he said he was going to try to bring the excitement back to Western and that there's going to be a time where you're not going to be able to get tickets to games. That he has lived up to that because, if you look at how things were right when Harper left and even in some of the good years of his era, there was still nights where there was maybe 3,000 to 4,000 people in Diddle Arena and there's all these empty spots. But, Rick Stansbury has been able to get it to the whole sellout diddle movement has worked phenomenally. There's been the game against Wisconsin, which was an absolute madhouse to be in. It was an incredible environment. And Western even had to make that verified resale market for tickets because there was such a high demand of so many games selling out this year. I can't remember what the final total was for this year with sellouts. But, people have bought into the hype. People are ready. So we're just waiting on our end to get back to the tournament, which I think is just the main thing to take away up to this point. I'd give him a solid B out of an A to F ranking. I'd give him a B.
You said a B as in boy or a D as in dog?
He said B.
Right?
B as in Banton.
Banton,
yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's...
Because I was like, whoa, you gave him a solid D? Good God, Jared, you were just talking good.
But, that's one
we
thing...
We haven't got to the tournament. It's an F.
Yeah, that's an F, man.
I will say, one of the things that Jared said, this year, average attendance-wise, is the highest since the remodel. That is an accomplishment. That is something to kind of hang your hat on. even if the on-court results are not necessarily where we'd want them for this particular season, selling out a couple games a year and having like really high average attendance is something that WKU desperately needs.
Yeah, completely agree.
Ross, how do you feel about the grades?
I'm kind of with Jared on the same wavelength. I would give him a B. I'll give him a B minus because 2 out of 3 years he underachieved. But I mean, everything else I've been pretty pleased with him. I mean, we were in back-to-back conference championship games. I mean, and if we would have made the tournament, we wouldn't have been like Harper with a 16. Like we actually had a chance to make some noise. We've got some fun non-conference wins, which we had 0 of those in the Harper era. We've got, really enjoyable regular seasons, really memorable moments. This year left a bad taste in our mouth. But, I mean, at the end of the day, he's raised the talent level. He's got excitement back. The last thing he needs to do is to get over the top. And one thing I guess we haven't talked about when it comes to finally turning that corner, like what happens next is, next year, year 4 of his system, Josh Anderson as seniors, Jared Savage, or as juniors, Jared Savage as a senior. You're going to have experience. You're going to have depth. I mean, there's really no excuse. And moving forward in Conference USA, there's just, I mean, besides UTSA with Jackson and Wallace, which are kind of a 2-man team, we should be the favorite next year just once again to do. We're not going to have a Caver or an Elmore or somebody like that standing in our way like we did.
Do you think we're going to get another Charles Bassey-esque player? Can we get another top 5?
I think we got Agenda, which, I mean, he's a top 75 player, but I think he's going to take a little bit more time to polish up, which is fine with me. I mean, I think part of the problem with Bassey was the expectations on him. People just saw his potential and the moments he would flash, but there was definitely some times where he'd make freshman mistakes and stuff like that. So I think having a freshman that can kind of ease into it, having somebody like Tolu Smith who can grow as the year happens. I mean, next year it's going to be tournament or bust for me. So.
I mean, that was the same for me this year. I will say on grading.
I mean, it was the same for me this year too, but
but it doesn't go back. Is what you're saying? Like we keep that expectation based on, even though you're losing possibly a first round NBA draft pick and not replacing them with an NBA draft pick, you're still, that level of expectation is still there because of what we're returning. Yeah. And I completely agree with that. It should not be backed off. I do not like pulling expectations back just to suit a retroactive narrative. That in sports makes me so mad all the time. It's okay to have high expectations for your program when your program means something. I just hate when people after the fact were it was great, we were too happy. No,
so okay,
keep your expectations and go.
So okay, in your argument here, if Bassey had gone out and gotten decapitated or something, you would be well, we didn't make the tournament. That sucks.
No, data points absolutely change.
Yeah.
Whereas, so the data points for us did not change throughout the season as far as what your expectations should be. Yeah. Because we saw time and time again that they had the potential to live up to those expectations.
Yeah.
And just failed because of gray matter issues. It was not that they couldn't do it. It's that they just didn't. And as far as grading stands throughout the 3 years, I honestly throw out that first year. I'm going to be perfectly honest. He didn't have a scholarship guard. There was crappy stuff with the Harper transfer out. It was just rough. So for me, that one, I'm okay, dude, just don't let anything bad come out. That's the whole thing. Just get it through the season. Recruit a little bit. The second season, honestly, for me, was a little once the people left. Once he who should not neck left the team, and we knew what that core was going to be. That did not for me. That was an overachieving season for me. I honestly thought that we could get to the tournament, but once the season got, once you saw what that team was, okay, we could get to the tournament, we can do it, but we are who we are, right? Yeah. And that longer NIT run, that one with those wins that we got, I thought that was overachieving. This year, it's the coin flip, right? We are a tournament team. We should be in the tournament. This is what this team needs to do.
And they shut the bed.
Honestly, pee down their leg, right? So for me, it's a C+ this year, honestly. Overall, I'm at a B. About a B minus. But for me, this year's probably about a C+. It's a disappointment. It is not what
I'd go C- this year, but overall B-.
I guess I'm a little more hopeful on I guess the high wins are what's keeping me closer to that B. But God, those low. Yeah,
I mean, they were second place in Conference USA. Is how they finished out. They tied.
Yeah, but let's see, we were third place the year before. Conference USA, I saw people just complaining online about why didn't we get an NIT bid? Why did the pod system didn't work? It's Conference USA beat the crap out of each other. There was no dominant team. It was like we didn't deserve to be in the NIT. You cut off 3 losses, we're in there.
Yeah,
but that was just strictly all on us.
You can't. I mean, if you not even like, I don't. I'm like speechless how like frustrating it is that we didn't get into the NIT because we had those crappy losses.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had not dropped those, like the
Indiana State, Missouri,
Southwest
Missouri State, or
yeah,
whatever their names are now.
Like if you hadn't screwed that up, you probably could have.
Oh yeah, definitely
made it because we had the wins. But
Indiana State, Missouri State, and Troy, those 3.
Yeah,
FIU too at home.
FIU at home was pretty bad. Yeah, that was pretty bad. But I mean, like I say, anybody on the Facebook group that's like, "He need to be fired. He need to get rid of Stansbury." Like,
those are the same people that say that Coach Calipari should be fired too.
Yeah. Hashtag bring back Darren Horn.
Yeah,
they're probably doing it on a different board too.
Exactly, they're probably got the same login for both, which is funny.
Devin, I hate to kind of like interrupt in the middle of like the mailbag, but I'm gonna have to peace out here in a second. So I was gonna see if I could do my cold takes.
You go right ahead, Jared. I'm sorry.
Right,
Knock it out, man.
Yeah, I hate it. I gotta peel out again.
No, you're good.
No, it's life, buddy. You do it.
All right. So with my cold takes, I mean, I could have taken all of the glorious, terrible takes about how we were going to make the NCAA tournament this year, but instead, I'm going to look back at our bold predictions for the hoops at the beginning of the year. Of course, there's an article for it. It's on the old takes, WKU Exposed or whatever. Of course, Fletcher's, his was Stansbury will land another 5-star recruit before the season starts. That did not happen, unfortunately. That probably could have helped matters a lot, but sadly did not. Mine was that Josh Anderson would be the leading scorer. That was the first thing I ever said on this podcast.
That's true. That was your first hot take.
He was a tenth of a point behind Jared Savage, who finished third. But, I mean, Bassey, Hollingsworth, Savage, and then Anderson is how that finished. Ross was the person who had the greatest take that actually turned out to be true, was no at-large bid for the tops. He was not drinking the Kool-Aid at the beginning part of the year, made respect. He has all these level of person.
I would argue I was playing the odds. Because if you look at the rest of my...
but okay, continuing though, like with Matt, his was that the tops will earn an at-large bid. We may have gotten one for the CBI or CIT, but we're not going to go that route. It's kind of sad the way that turned out, but I mean, yeah, that was really bad. Sam's was even worse. He said that we would make the Sweet 16, like talking about the excitement of the tournament and everything. We probably could have made the Sweet 16, honestly, if we got in, but it's just a matter of actually getting into the tournament. And Jake, yours was pretty good. You were saying how the tops will upset a powerhouse in the tournament or whatever, talking about they'll be one of the blue bloods or whatever. They were on track to be like an 11 seed or 12 seed. Of course, Devin, yours, talking about how Bassey will return. That's still up in the air. You could turn out to be right along with Ross. So, I mean, those are all some very quality takes. Hindsight's 2020. It still wasn't as bad as the takes we had for football. Those were even worse. But, yeah, those were my cold takes. So, I mean, yeah.
Thanks for reliving how awful we are, Jared. I appreciate that.
That's what I'm here for, man. I'm here for reminding you that. And also to be roasted by Devin, too.
That's right.
Triggered constantly.
That's right. I mean, it's one of those things that I think it's good to show that we're all human and that we all make mistakes, even if we are buying into the Kool-Aid, which apparently Ross never buys Kool-Aid, according to his take.
He's a Capri Sun guy.
Yes, he does not go to Jonestown. But, yeah.
Dark.
But, I mean, we all make mistakes. We all cheer for the Pacers or the Dolphins or whoever, so.
See you, Jared.
My life is so miserable. Okay. I'll see you guys.
Hey, take care, buddy.
See you, Jared.
Bless his heart.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Love Jared.
And down in the dumps, because everybody he loves is losing.
Yeah. But, yeah, so, going back to the mailbag, let's see here. My grade. I never gave my grade.
Yeah, what's your grade?
I would probably say I've still got that bad taste in my mouth, so I may grade a little harsher this year. I think this year, his overall career, I'd say, is probably like a straight B. Because I don't like pluses and minuses, because it just kind of makes it more optimistic or pessimistic.
Guys. No plus minus for us.
Yeah. But my take is that this year whether it's him not being a very good X's and O coach, or the players just being too young and naive and not knowing to follow, to do the plan as he tells them or whatever, I would say it's probably like that would probably be like a C- or a D+ this year. And like I said, it could be just because I got that bad taste in my mouth, but...
Yeah, it may chill as the offseason goes on.
I may change my opinion, but probably average them together, I'd probably just say a C.
Yeah, it's just rough.
You can't blame him for the Mitch Rob thing.
No.
As much as I don't talk about that kid on this show, because I don't know.
To me, that was a chance worth taking.
Yes, I agree. He was a great recruit, potential at the wazoo, and I don't know if it was just different people telling him different things, and then him just listening and going along with it, or what. That's what he's got to live with, and I mean, he's in the NBA now, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, he's doing all right.
He's making his money, so I don't know, we'll see. But like I said, I'd probably just say right now, currently, he's probably at a C. But yeah.
And Matt, to answer your question, will we answer this question on the air too? No.
No, yeah. Anybody transferring this year?
I don't know.
It's a possibility.
Probably.
Possibility. Could see it. It could happen. And if they do, good luck to them.
Yeah, we'll evaluate Stans for his roster turnover then, too.
And we're not answering the last question, man, as Jake said.
Yeah.
Brett, passionate listener, always trying to help us out. He says, I am slightly disappointed in the coaching staff. What do you think of the pattern of coaching, playing certain guys, and that's it? I just wonder if he would have benched certain players during slumps in shooting, them not passing the ball, etc. What could have happened? That's a crystal ball question.
Honestly, I don't know. It's really hard when you're in a game and you don't have the talent, you don't have depth of talent to actually bench some dudes. Maybe for a minute or two, but what's that really doing?
Yeah. It's not like you had a 6-man on the bench. Banton probably, but Banton, I think, ruined his chance to be a key contributor early in the year, and Stansberry realized our one big weakness was turnover. So
right,
I don't blame him for not playing him at the end of the year. And he was really the only guy that could play more than a handful of minutes a game off that bench, because, like we said, Murray, Queen, all those guys that didn't make it kind of tied his hands. So I'm not really worried about that. If Bassie leaves and Oriental leaves with him, like we all predict, I really hope he goes after an X's and O's coach, or that Troy coach that used to be at Western as an assistant or something like that. So
yeah, somebody that has a good basketball mind and who can get buy-in from the players. I don't know. On every team, I at least want one coach who can really get emotional buy-in from the players who they're playing, for, and who can relate to the players. Because let's be real, Stans is a good coach. He's a great recruiter, but he's not identifying with 18 to 20-year-olds. He's just not. You need kind of a dude to, play forward, really identify with. And
I'd assume that's Mark Shooter right now, but he's a talented coach. If we keep him for a couple more years, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, and that's one. And that was kind of my question. Is Shue that guy who they play for, who they really relate to on that's my player's coach, kind of level? Because I honestly don't know.
So, last question by Perry Swack.
Great last name.
Yes.
I have no idea what Ross is listening to.
Is that Dora the Explorer? But anyway.
No, baby's in bed, man.
I know, but
I'm cleaning up her toys.
I was going to say, he may be partaking. I don't know. Right. Who are your top 5 favorite WKU players you've watched in person? Ross, let you take it, buddy.
Let's see. I would start probably. No, I'll go 1 to 5 just because it'll be easier. Number 1, Courtney Lee. The fact that he was there in college. While I was there, he took us to the Sweet 16. I love me some Courtney Lee, so he'd be number 1. Number 2, same vein, Jeremy Evans. I had a bunch of classes with him, and just another NBA player. It's right place, night, time. Number 3 would be Stefan Pettigrew. I loved his game when he was at Western. He was an undersized 4, but was a bulldog. I'll go for a couple underrated guys. Number 4, Chris Marcus. I know Devin didn't know who he was last week, but he was just a freaking monster when those early 2000s Dennis Felton teams, like, big, just I think those early 2000s teams helped me become a Western fan, and then when I went to campus, I fell in love with the school. But it would be somebody like him, and then number 5, I'll go with somebody like let me think. I'll go with Josh Anderson right now, just because I think his potential is high, and by the time he's done on campus, I think we're going to say we really saw a special person.
For sure. For me, they're all kind of, because I didn't see, like, prior to actually going to college at Western, all Western games I pretty much saw were either on TV or radio. Like, I wasn't super duper huge in the tank until I actually went to Western. And so for me, my favorite guys that I've seen play is kind of limited because, I've only seen, a couple of teams actually play. So for me, I'll go like reverse order. For me, number 5 is Tracy Jackson. I love that kid's game. He was a lot of fun. He was exciting. TJ Price was the absolute man. I love Price. Then getting into modern, Tay's still my favorite player on this team. Absolutely love Tay to death and hope that he gets back to where he was. Number 2 for me is absolutely Justin Johnson because of what he meant to the team, for the leadership, for being a contributor, just sticking with the team. And number 1 for me is a little selfish because, like, I went to school with the guy for a couple of years, but George Fant is, like, an absolute class act. He is a good... like I said, I knew the kid for a couple of years before he transferred to Central, which we did yell at him when he went to Central, but you know what? I get it. You moved to a basketball school. I get it. But he's absolutely my favorite, like, Western player that I've seen play live because he is not only a great basketball player, now a great NFL player, but he's just a good dude.
Fans I always think he's so cool.
I'd love to do this one for football one day too.
Oh my gosh, football, dude! I could go all day with football.
Just look up at your banner that's signed.
I know, right? Of
course, we've got an off season for that.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
And of course, even in the off season, got a lot of stuff I'd like to do. Have some food brackets, some chips,
just some
restaurants,
stuff.
Movies, just goofy stuff. And, we'll come at you with it and see how it goes. I probably won't have 5 because I don't do basketball. But probably number 4, I'll go Ty Rogers. Number 2, I'll go.
You need a 3.
I know,
you don't
right?
need a 3. It's fine. Skipping 3.
Yeah, Courtney Lee, and probably one of my favorites just because of his name is Orlando Mendez Valdez.
Dude, he's a machine.
He is. I always liked.
His senior year, he was so good on that team that lost to Gonzaga.
Which he's playing for the Mexico League. Is that correct?
He definitely.
Yeah, I had a class with his wife or his now wife in college, and he's been hanging around pro ball for like 12 years now. It's pretty amazing.
I'm happy for him. Yeah, he's playing for Soles de Mexicali. I don't know. I haven't taken Spanish.
I mean, he's played in like the FIBA Tournament of the Americas, and like he's played in like these little those little summer tournaments and stuff. So Mexico not really known as a basketball country, but still kind of cool.
It's more track and field, run, jump, swim stuff. Yeah. I remember when Mendez Valdez played because it was just one of those things, and I don't know what you're doing, Ross.
Ross, what are you doing at Cantaloupe, man? What are you doing at Cantaloupe? Quit. It's not allowed in Kentucky.
Take it out of the oven. It is not legal in the state.
It's not okay, buddy.
I'm just cleaning up, buddy.
That's what they call it now.
Of course, I agree with all of Ross's because we were at Western at the same time.
So you guys have that same era.
Yes, we have the same era of Western cheering. Stephen Pettigrew and some of those guys, and it was always fun.
I was in high school.
Yeah.
Let's do the ranks.
Yeah, let's jump into ranking. Positive and negative of March.
Yeah, so I kind of had this idea where we could do go back for best thing, worst thing, best thing, worst thing. I have 4 of each. I don't know how many you guys were able to think of.
Start her off.
Okay, so for me, I'll start at my number 4 best, which is things about March Madness. Is Samuel L. Jackson in those commercials. I love him. Spike Lee, meh. But Sam Jackson is one of my favorite actors, and he is always funny in pretty much anything he does. So those commercials, I know they're getting kind of dumb, and they're playing them a little bit too much, but they just get me right in the funny bone every time.
Completely agree. I guess my positive and negative is so many teams playing.
Yeah.
Because I don't get me wrong. I love watching the games and everything when I can, but like there's some games that you just miss, and there's life happens, etc. But it's like you just miss stuff, and it's like, man, I wish I got to see blank team play blank team. That would have been a really good game, but I have to sleep.
Yeah, I have to go. I can't watch.
You need to invest in the 2 TV setup for this time of year. Yeah. I'll send you guys a picture after this. But
and vacation days.
I'm watching 2. Yeah, I'm watching 2 games right now. I'm watching the North Dakota State playing game, and then I'm watching just some other random like baseball game on the other thing. But like the thing I'm with Devin. I really love the opening Thursday and Friday. I think, growing up here in Kentucky, everybody, I remember taking one of those crappy antenna TVs that had maybe a 2-inch screen into school, or having our teachers putting on the games on their rollout TVs. I mean, the opening day is just the best. You still have Cinderellas, you have the upsets, the buzzer beaters. I love that day.
So now a worst, right? I've got, for one of my worsts, my bracket every freaking year.
Oh, yeah.
I hate it every time. Every time I hate it.
I completely agree.
No matter how good I do, I still hate it.
I think, actually going off of what Ross is saying, this isn't a point, but this is just something I'm kind of observing. I want to say that basketball is more of a sport than horse racing for Kentucky. Yeah. Because I remember in high school,
horse racing is a tradition. Basketball is the sport everybody loves.
I completely agree.
Yeah, that's exactly how I'd categorize it.
Because, like March Madness comes around, the teachers just pushed it out there. They give you homework, and you just sit there and watch the games and do your homework.
Yeah, dude, I remember us legit going into like the cafeteria on like the one big TV that our middle school had, and watching, I don't even remember who it was, one of the state teams playing. Like, it's like the middle of the day on a Thursday. And it's just like, you guys you've been good this week. Y'all know we ain't been good this week. You just want to watch this game.
Exactly.
Because Louisville's playing, y'all are Louisville fans, and that's cool. We don't care. We're out of class. Let's go watch a basketball game.
And and that's another thing, too. When your high school team would get so far in the tournament, they called off school.
Yeah, pretty much.
And it was like legit. You're like, wow.
It's like we got a team bus. So another favorite thing of mine. What'd you guys? What's your
Ross,
worst?
Go ahead.
What's your worst? One of the worst things.
There's not a lot I really hate about it. I would say maybe the overlong commercial breaks. Like if you actually go to a game in person, the game's a lot less smooth than your average regular season game, and I think that's because the NCAA kind of whores out to the corporate sponsors. So I would go kind of with that.
Yeah, the non-profit organization has to get some kind of profit. So,
that's right. Yeah, exactly.
I think one of my worst things is legacy teams. Now, when I say legacy teams...
Yes, amen.
You all probably understand, but like, for instance, the Billy Gillespie era of Kentucky, there were a couple years there where they got to the tournament and they had no business being there. And even as a UK Western fan, that's when I jumped off the UK bandwagon because I was like, screw that guy, he sucks. And then Cal came along and everything got better.
Lately, it's just right in Power 5. It was awesome that Belmont got in, but like Oklahoma had no business being in there. Indiana was the number 1 seed in the NIT. They were super close, so they would have beat Ohio State. Like the fact that the deck stacked up enough, and I don't really care to watch a team with 13 or 14 losses that didn't really deserve to be there.
Yeah, and who's going to get a quick exit. That's just the thing. I say one more favorite thing of mine is just being a complete and utter slob, from Thursday to Sunday, and eating and drinking terribleness.
Oh yeah,
getting absolutely nothing done whatsoever. Like I'm already I got stuff to do at work. I'm trying to get it all done for 12:15 tomorrow because it's going to be hard to focus Thursday and Friday.
I can see that.
Like that's one of my favorite things. Is just the absolute slime ball that I become for 4 days.
You're throwing on the work laptop. You're putting on your phone. You're doing whatever you can to catch games even when you're supposed to be working.
Right. So. Yeah.
Yep. Ross, what is your better thing or best thing?
I still love over the last 12 or 15 years, that Cinderella that makes a deep run. As a Western fan, I'm not a big snob. I've got friends that are, and we love the Cinderellas in the first 2 rounds. But Loyola last year, Butler when they were still in mid-major, VCU, Georgetown, Davidson when they had Steph Curry. Like, those great stories, and the fact that, they're on a level playing field, unlike football where people get a shot, is just awesome to me. So,
yeah, I think one of I've got two. Of course, one of mine is kind of echoing what Ross just said. The better thing of the March Madness is brackets.
Definitely.
And Star Wars.
Yeah, and apparently Star Wars. But
yeah, for sure. Bracket games are just the best.
Yes.
Even though I always hate mine, it's still just fun. Because at the end, if you do okay, you get to brag to all your buddies. Like, dude, I can't believe you picked Belmont to go to Sweet 16. What's wrong with you?
Yes, bracket pools. Yeah, my phone just went up. Sorry about that. Bracket pools, your busted bracket, everything.
Even though technically, guys, the bracket pools with cash money involved in the state of Kentucky, illegal. Just FYI.
Yeah, but
They are.
they don't have to know about that.
They actually they don't care. But
and Ross, I completely agree. Upsets make March Madness the greatest thing ever.
Even when it ruins your bracket sometimes. Like, you know what? To heck with it. Go down with Duke.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I had the year Middle beat Michigan State. I had Michigan State win the whole thing.
Dude, I feel you. I had him in, Final Four. It was real bad.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, as much as I hate Middle, straight biddies, but still, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was so torn that game.
I know, right?
So torn.
You're just like, I hate these guys. But it's the little dude that should have done it. But I guess this is all we've got for tonight.
All we've got, hour and a half later.
Yeah, an hour and a half later. Of course,
we had to get the bad out.
We had a lot to get out, and next week we'll be on the positive and talking about good stuff and all that.
It's gonna be a lot harder to find topics, so we might as well got our windy one in while we could. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So as always, follow the Towel Rack. They have articles every day. Follow us on Twitter and all the good stuff. And as always, go Tops.
Go Tops.
Go Tops.